The University of Louisville empowers students with over 50 fully online degrees and certificates in areas like business, public health, social work, engineering, and more. Flexible coursework allows time to focus on all of life's priorities. Learn more at louisville.edu/online.
From the University of Louisville's Delphi Center for Teaching and Learning.
And the University of Central Florida's Center for Distributed Learning.
I am Kelvin Thompson.
And I am Tom Cavanaugh.
And you are listening to Topcast, the Teaching Online podcast. Hey, Tom.
Hey, Kelvin. How's life?
Cold.
Cold, yeah.
Cold.
Well, I'm not going to complain about what it is here, given where you are, but it's been chilly for here, like 40s at night, not much above 60 during the day, which is sort of brisk for us.
That's life is rough there.
I know.
Yeah, we're looking forward to the balmy change in temperature tomorrow when we reach 40 as a high. Yeah. We're looking forward to that.
Okay.
Get out of the basement of single-digit low temperatures, but I'm sure some people have it below 0 Fahrenheit. So
some of our listeners somewhere.
Right.
It's always colder or warmer somewhere, right?
That's what they say.
I see you drinking a nice warm coffee. I assume that's helping with your temperature regulation.
All right. Okay, let me just say this about that before I ask you what you're drinking. So you would think, but it's cold.
Okay. Well, ironically,
it's not warm.
So's mine. I'm drinking a nice coffee right now. Mm-hmm. Yes. This is not thematic, but it is coffee. So this is actually Starbucks. I think it's the blonde roast, and it's got cream and that I've added, and some sweetener that I have added. That is, I think it's some sugar-free salted caramel, something or other. But it's good for a late afternoon when it's actually 58 degrees out.
I'm picturing you making this beverage like, okay, here's an inch of coffee.
No, it's not that bad. No. I thought you were going to say eye of newt and wing of bat, we'll stir it all up in there. It's lovely. Powder. It's good. I take it yours is less dressed up than mine.
Well, it's a lot. It's less everything probably. So, okay, listen to my woes. So I had an early meeting, much earlier than normal meeting this morning because there was a position hire candidate, and I got pulled into an appointment to be with a group of people to meet with a candidate, and it was early. And did I mention it was early? And I don't have any time to make the coffee in the thermos and bring it like normal. And then I thought, well, okay, my fallback will be to go to the coffee shop that's in this building where I work. And then I looked at my calendar, and there's no time to get there between the time we're recording this and the preceding meeting. I'm like, man, I'm going to have to finally break down and do it. There's actually allegedly a coffee dispenser, like few hundred feet away from where I'm sitting that I have not touched since I've been here.
By dispenser, you mean like a coffee pot that the staff make?
Something allegedly. Somebody here refers to it as brown office water. I'm like, I haven't touched that stuff yet, but I guess I'm going to have to today. And then there was an event earlier in the facility here, and I looked, and there was a leftover canister of Panera coffee, and I'm like, okay, do I go get the alleged hot brown office water, or do I pour, I don't know what the temperature is, leftover from this morning Panera coffee? So I did the latter. I poured it into this cup. I got here, and I'm like, wow, that's not warm at all.
I've been there. I've done that. And it is a bit of a surprise when you're expecting, something warmer than you're putting in your mouth.
So I am drinking, Tom, a fallback of the fallback of the fallback not even lukewarm, room temperature, Panera blend of some sort. And it was deliberately chosen to match with the topic of the day.
Okay, I think I have it actually.
All right, that's good.
Yeah. So this was a bit of a thinking on your feet and dealing with an unexpected situation, having to improvise a little bit.
That's right.
And kind of in your case, an emergency of sorts.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So am I in the ballpark here?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, because we said that because of all of the various exigent circumstances recent to us as we're recording this will release in early February 2025, but as we're recording it, it's still January of 2025. Lots of stuff happening in January 2025. I mean, things are burning and things are freezing and things are slick with ice and hail and locusts and whatever we got going on here. So we thought some kind of a zooming in refresher on what to do with maybe temporary remote instruction and related continuity operation stuff. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. It's an interesting topic and a bit of an evolution from some stuff we've talked about before, specifically when we had Patty O'Sullivan on from Every Learner Everywhere. And episode 152, you have helpfully added to the notes so I can remember which one it is. But she helped us think through this idea of kind of continuity of operations in an academic context. And, just with the advent of this flexible remote instruction that became ubiquitous during COVID, it has really changed sort of the expectations for what we do in these kinds of situations, where in the past it would have just been, well, school's closed. Now it's like, well, is it? Maybe, maybe not. It sort of depends on the circumstances.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And certainly here, which is a little bit colder than where you are, Tom, we started what we still anachronistically refer to as the spring term, frozen January. We were just days from the beginning of the start of classes. We were going to start classes on a Wednesday. And the previous Friday, we started having high-level meetings talking about, with the impending weather, what are we going to do? Is the university going to be closed? Are we going to do, or is it going to be business as normal? Are we going to do something new? What's going to be done? And as I was telling you offline, many meetings and so forth. And we were talking about, well, maybe that's a conversation worth having on mic. So here we are.
Yeah. So it was something that was like right in front of your face. And I imagine you're not alone, right? There are others that are dealing with it. But what makes it really interesting for me, we don't have snow days here. But I remember sort of at the tail end of COVID and all the remote instruction, as everybody was sort of coming back, there were comments made that, well, that's the end of snow days, and sort of being said ruefully, like I remember being a kid up north and loving the snow day and listening on the radio for my school if it would be closed or not. But with remote instruction, like, well, go home and your teacher may be stuck in his or her house and they're going to teach you over Zoom or whatever, and you can be stuck in your house, and it doesn't necessarily mean that school is closed. Just the things that have to take place on campus are closed. And that feels like an interesting evolution, like a bit of an inflection point that something's changed due to this remote instruction. So what did you all end up doing?
Yeah, so maybe a couple quick comments before talking about that. So I think tomorrow, as we record this, is my 2-year being physically on premises here anniversary. And in that 2 years, up until really recently, we've been closed, we've been opened. And sometimes there have been weather events since I've been here where the university is going to be closed early, like we're here, and okay, we're closing at X o'clock today, everybody get home because severe weather. And it's not go do remote work, right? I mean, we're closed. And I learned a new thing. I'd heard of snow days, right? I mean, I'm a native Floridian. I didn't know from snow days. And somebody told me, you might have a snow day. But what they didn't tell me is once, since I've been here, we had a slow day, not a snow day, a slow day, and it's a slow start day. Because of inclement weather early in the morning, instead of the university opening at X o'clock in the morning, like open 2 hours later to allow the sun to warm the earth and
roads to get plowed and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. So we've both opened late, we've closed early, we've been closed. But during this recent event, the university came up with a third option as an entire institution, flexible remote as a status. Which the provost articulated practically as everything that can be done remotely and virtual should be. Realizing that, and then HR has to get involved. Like some people, like maybe grounds people, they're not able to do their job remotely, and if they're sent home, then they get a special kind of a leave. I think was the notice I saw go out and so forth. At the time that first happened, there were not instructional activities going on. And then there were. So there's the university status of flexible remote, and then sitting on top of that was temporary remote instruction once we had activity. So that's where we ended up. But getting there was a few steps, lots of meetings, lots of communications, and so forth, including, this was new to me too, so I mentioned that classes were starting on a Wednesday. Our professional schools, law, medicine, and dentistry, started their instructional activities on Monday, 2 days before. So when we're meeting at these high-level meetings on the previous Friday, even though we're talking about Wednesday, the real, for most people, first day of classes, we're also talking about, but what about the professional schools that start 2 days earlier? And so we had to move like 2 days faster to then share with those deans some plans and, that they could work with their faculty to invoke come Monday. And then, okay, what's the deal going to be on Wednesday? And so some of this was being ready, and some of this was communicating, being ready with a couple of different options, and then decisions being reached, and then communicating to certain people about what, especially faculty and students. That kind of makes sense?
Yeah, it does. It's really interesting to me because it feels like, see if you agree or if you think of additional categories. But in my mind, I'm sort of feeling like there are now 3 different kinds of categories of situations where this could all come into play. One is the sort of typical one that we deal with that I know you're familiar with, which is sort of the hurricane is coming. Mm-hmm. And it's bearing down on the university, and we know it's coming, and it's going to be here Wednesday, and so we all close down on Monday, and the public schools are closed, and online learning is not happening at all. The whole institution is closed because the faculty who would be teaching it and the students who'd be taking it, I mean, like they need to board up their houses and like bring their patio furniture in, and like all of the things you have to do when a storm is coming, and you can't be teaching. So in those situations, everything's closed. So that's category 1. Category 2 is sort of what you just described, which is, all right, it's a snow day, but like, as long as you stay in your house, life and limb are not threatened, and there isn't a whole lot of preparation you need to do other than like stock up on M&Ms and snacks and things. And so you can go to emergency remote instruction, and maybe like a pandemic falls into that category or something, right? So something that where the physical campus is closed, but everything else that can be done remotely continues remotely. So that's category 2. So maybe like campus labs or not, or research on campus or something, like the things that happen on campus can't happen, but you can continue instruction and other things and work, right? Meetings and stuff. And then the third category would be some portion of campus is closed due to some exigent circumstance. So like a building burns down, or there's maintenance happening in a building and you have to take it offline, or whatever it is. But that portion of campus goes remote. And, the big example, I think I've talked about this on the podcast before, but when we've talked about COOP, continuity of operations planning, it used to happen where before COVID and remote instruction was a thing and everybody could kind of manage that a little more autonomously than before, and online learning ran centrally, I would discover that our department was in other departments and schools and colleges COOP plans. Like, well, when the Health and Public Affairs building burns down, we're just going to go online. Like, well, please keep me in the loop that we're part of your plan so that we can, be prepared if an emergency happens. And in fact, the big, exclamation point on that story is that HPA building did almost burn down. It didn't, thank God. But somebody had a candle burning in there or something, and it was a little scary. And fortunately, nobody was hurt and no real damage or anything. But like stuff happens, right? So, and I remember when I was at another institution, when I was at Embry-Riddle, Christmas Day, a tornado hit the campus. So thankfully, nobody was on campus and nobody was injured, but there was a ton of property damage. Airplanes were flung around and buildings were hurt. And then the whole administration building was unusable. It was not safe to be in there. They had to raise it and build a whole new one. So if something like that happened, it could easily take a portion of campus offline, or maybe a whole college of a university offline, and they could go remote to continue instruction. So those are sort of, as you were talking, the 3 categories I had in my head. Do you think that covers the waterfront, or am I missing anything?
I mean, I think it does. I don't know. A fourth thing sort of comes to mind, but it may be enough of a horse of a different color not to count. And I know we've both experienced this, and I'm sure many of our listeners have as well. Although, we may even have fresh examples in our minds, as people are listening to this. Let's just use this term. When a disaster strikes a large geographic area, especially in online classes where students can be any number of places away from the originating institution, that too is a thing. It's analogous, sort of, kind of, a little bit to your example of like a big chunk of campus, like a building or something, only it's sort of the other end of the pipeline, right? Potentially a swath of students are affected, but others are not. And we've certainly seen through the years, like a hurricane hits an area, or wildfires devastate an area, or earthquakes, or whatever, right? I think that's in the mix somewhere. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that maybe falls into that last category where it's like a portion of the campus is closed. Like when Hurricane Michael hit the Panama City campus of FSU, that was really bad. So yeah, that I can see that. And I'm trying to think of other examples. Like while we're recording this, those terrible wildfires are happening in Los Angeles right now.
That's right.
And I've got a friend whose daughter's at UCLA, and they've moved the students off campus. And it's not like they're going to be able to do their classes, right? Because who knows, faculty and others are probably impacted by the fires, and it's not like they're going to, I imagine, I don't know this for a fact, but I imagine that campus is closed, right? They're probably not doing remote instruction given the nature of that emergency.
Yeah. I think you're right that it is a kind of a special case of your third category. I just think at some institutions, if we didn't call it out as a fourth category, those students might not be thought of. That's all I would.
So maybe it's, one subpart A, paragraph B.
That's right. But it's interesting, having gone through a global pandemic response in higher ed and all that when these really focused examples of need come up, it nevertheless here, I mean, I think we had baseline experiences to draw upon, but it wasn't like, oh yeah, no big deal. Let me have another 10 minutes on the alarm clock and I'll get up later. It was, no, we still had to do some very concentrated communication and decision making and what was already in place. Like I'm looking right now at a continuity of instruction webpage that has already been updated since last week. And will be updated more as we, seek to kind of bolster. So it wasn't, what we already had in place wasn't completely sufficient after all. It was on the right track, but it was because it didn't reflect this new university status thing, this flexible remote for the university. And when a communication of this nature happens, these are the things. It was much more elective. Like if you get sick or your students get sick or if the university's closed, but now it's, well, if we're in this and then temporary remote instruction's invoked, that means this, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it seems like we've got maybe a little more of a heuristic to draw on now than we did before. I remember shortly after I got to UCF, maybe it was right around that time, it was like the whole, I don't know if it was bird flu or swine flu was kind of like going around.
H1N1? Yeah. I think so. Bird flu.
And there was a lot of talk about what do we do if, right?
That's right.
And at that time, it was, we weren't giving everybody a shell, an LMS shell for all of their classes, regardless of modality. It just wasn't happening.
Right.
So that was like our answer. Like, oh, well, we'll flip the switch and everybody gets a web course shell, that's as we call it. And we called it Web Courses for All, I think was our sort of name for it. Now that seems wholly inadequate, right? Like we've been doing that already. In fact, we've been doing that for years, just automated. Everybody gets a LMS shell. This required a much more robust response. And to your point, like it needed some coordination and some deeper thinking and some new technologies. And so the only thing I kind of had in my back pocket at the time was that, and that was not useful at all. So we were kind of making it up as we went along. And yeah, that was the last time I had a series of Sunday meetings was during that whole thing. I don't miss that.
No, right. Me either. Yeah. I mean, they're emergencies for a reason, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to have them all the time. But I'll give, I don't know if this is useful, I'll give some concrete examples of, as you say, kind of a revised heuristics, right? Like springboarding off of your point. So we too, here at this institution, everybody gets an LMS place for their class section. Not everybody uses them. Generally, the expectation is instructors would post syllabi, but they're there. So it is a necessary but not sufficient step, right? So as we were communicating protocol, step one protocol, use university-supported technology platforms as the basis for remote instruction. And here's some associated instruction sheet for, like, if you were going to do the synchronous online in place of an in-person classroom setting. In this case, it's like we have Microsoft Teams. So here's how you make the integration between, there is an integration, but here's how you set up the meeting and so forth. Meet for remote instruction, if you're going to do that, only on the days and times previously scheduled.
Right, yeah. It's funny you say those two things. They seem so obvious to me, but you kind of have to say them both, don't you? Like,
Right.
don't go make up or go find your own platform. Like that's
Right. I mean, you have to kind of think these through, like this thing, one thing leads to the other thing, leads to the other thing. If you're going to do like a synchronous session, record it, right? Because no matter how much communication, somebody's not going to be able to make it, right? And so then that's just maybe a little starter, and there are many number of things after that. But then we did these sessions for faculty. I appreciated it. The provost came and gave framing remarks. I made some intermediate remarks, and then our team gave brass tacks guidance for faculty who, most of them have already gone through a pivot to emergency remote instruction in 2020, but nevertheless, well, what about today? What do I do? Yeah. And part of what I did was like, okay, there's just things I just said, but look, the first day of classes is different for everybody. And what you might do for temporary remote instruction may be different. So here's like a range of options, right? The very minimum, make personal contact with your students because they don't know, right? I mean, blanket email or whatever announcement banner on the website went out, but they want to hear from you, their instructor. What do I do? Yeah, don't go to class. Don't go to the classroom. Like we're going to do this. And it might be assign an academic engagement activity, or it might be conduct a synchronous session, or it might be, I prepared some stuff that you can do on your own asynchronously. It might be a recording that you watch, or it might be a asynchronous text module, whatever it is. All those are fair game. You do you. Right? But nobody's forcing you to do, but what does that look like? Unpacking that, even after 2020, fascinating.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I've mentioned to you that I've been serving as an expert witness in this lawsuit where it's not for an institution in either one of our states. And
Good.
it has to do with some students who want a refund for tuition for having gone remote when they didn't think they should have gone remote. And so I'm kind of working for the institution. And so I'm interviewing faculty, and I'm being objective, and I'm just trying to figure out whether or not the students got the education that was promised to them in the syllabus, even though for half a semester they went remote. But my point is that in interviewing these faculty, first of all, I've been just so impressed with faculty across the country, just how much they care about their students and how much they bent over backwards, especially during that time when everything was just crazy. But at this institution, they had some centralized support, but not a lot. And a lot of faculty were sort of on their own and just figured a bunch of stuff out. And they were using like platforms that they just found or things that really just only fit their discipline. And some of the disciplines are very kind of niche. And I think if they had this kind of a heuristic, like an if-then, invoke this kind of a intervention or support system, it would have helped them so much.
Yes. We've learned some things, right? Having gone through, right? I mean, I appreciate your appreciation of that wide swath of faculty. I do too, right? In fact, I felt a little bit like your conversation with Melissa Lobel a few episodes back. She talked about remembering that one bright spot during 2020 especially was all the empathy and the human element, extension of grace. And what I found myself was in these sessions with faculty was invoking that, right? And in communications with students, invoking that, right? We're all doing the best we can. We're all humans, extend a little grace, try to go the extra mile, do all of those things. But all this sits on top of, for the adults in the group, we've done all this before, but we need to remember we can do a little better this time.
Yeah. Continuous improvement. Let's learn from our mistakes.
Can I mention one pet peeve? One pet peeve. Despite everything else, would you believe I'm not going to name any names. I'm not going to call anybody out. I'm not seeking to beat anybody up in the midst of all that empathy and stuff. But in certain communications, I was watching out for and seeking to edit, change, and correct certain folks still saying things like, oh, we're going online. Online instruction will take place. And what did I say?
That's not online. It's actually emergency remote instruction. Online is an asynchronous, intentionally designed course. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
right.
with you, man.
So getting the terminology, so you some daylight between this exigent circumstance and the real thing.
Yeah. It's not to say that you can't do a good job, especially with some foresight and some planning and all of that.
Right.
Intentionality being the key word, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. They are different animals. Yeah. All right. So having said all that, shall I try to bring us in for a landing?
Safely.
Okay. So I think as we've described here, disruptions will continue to happen to institutions and individuals and students and faculty and basically anybody on a campus. So it's incumbent upon us as digital learning professionals to lead through a path as smoothly as possible to get us back to normal, whatever normal was before the emergency struck.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. You know, it's a good reminder, and you've already given the shout out to that episode 152 with Patty O'Sullivan and the Every Learner Everywhere document about academic continuity. I think that's a good broad framework to guide specific protocols and communications and all that. But boy, we shouldn't sleep on this.
No. Yeah. And hey, man, everybody stay safe out there. Stay warm or cool as the case may be, and stay safe.
That's right. Well, I appreciate the conversation over my cold, substandard, old coffee. But, you know, it was exigent circumstances. Yours sounds froofier and tastier.
It was excellent. I have no complaints.
Until next time for Topcast, I'm Kelvin.
And I'm Tom.
See you.